This is CRM Audio, the Microsoft Dynamics CRM podcast, with George Dubinsky, Joel Lindstrom, and Sean, the CRM Hobbit Tabor.
This episode of CRM Audio is sponsored by KingswaySoft. Their SSIS integration toolkit comes from lessons that they learned from working on many large-scale CRM data integration projects. KingswaySoft has adapters for the entire Dynamics family, including CRM, GP, AX, SL, Nav, and also Dynamics Marketing, Parature, and non-dynamic sources like Salesforce.com, Oracle, QuickBooks, and online cloud storage like OneDrive and Dropbox. KingswaySoft brings you cost-effective, codeless integration development with unparalleled performance. Compared with other CRM integration options, they provide more features for a lower price. You can download a free trial from kingswaysoft.com. That's KingswaySoft.com. We thank KingswaySoft for their support of CRM Audio.
Do you see this challenge? How would you solve this challenge now that Microsoft releases new features as additional solutions? So when you go to your CRM, you start installing those solutions, and suddenly you have like bazillions of new fields, new plugins, and new code, new JavaScript. Know what's going on. So CRM starts to behave in an unexpected way. How do you go about narrowing it down to a specific solution, and how Microsoft support is going to address those problems?
That's a good question, and I would say from what I've used of the new solutions, for example, playing with the voice of the customer preview, playing with office groups, and some of these others that have been released as these solutions. A lot of them have been pretty compartmentalized. So, for example, if you're using voice of the customer, it has its own unique set of entities, and if you have a problem with it, you can troubleshoot that area. It's a little bit different with something like FieldOne that introduces new functionality that that touches existing entities. For example, things that touch customer accounts and contacts and the other customer entities. That's a little bit different story that does bring that into play. And so I don't know now. For example, ADX Studio, since that was an existing solution and it's not both FieldOne and ADX Studio were pre-existing solutions. My hope is that gives us a head start from a maturity standpoint, that it's not going to be a totally new product. It's going to be an enhancement on what the existing solution was.
The good side of this is that if before Microsoft could confidently say, look, it's not our fault, it's your ISV solutions that causing the problem, we now can turn around and say, hold on, you are the ISV, so please help us. But the reason I'm raising it is I spent not a lot of time, but I spent a few minutes yesterday helping a friend of mine. He said, hey, look, do you know what's popping up when I'm typing the customer address? I was like, what's popping up? Are you talking about composite fields? He said, no. I know the composite fields. It's address validation. And I said, well, not that I know of, not out of the box. So we started digging, and turns out FieldOne adds, I'm not sure how they do it, probably using Bing, but it adds address validation to the contact form. So you type the address and it pops up, and bang, it sort of says, oh, I found 3 matching addresses, closely matching addresses, these, and these, which is nice, which is really, really nice. particularly considering that, as far as I know, don't take my word for it, but FieldOne, the basic one, will be available at no extra charge to professional licenses.
For online, yeah.
Yeah, for online, that means it's an awesome freebie. So looking forward to it. The concern is, of course, that all those solutions, they consume entities, and I haven't seen a definite answer if those entities count against your limit.
Well, here's a question. Have you ever heard of anybody not able to add an entity because they've exceeded that limit? I don't think I have, and I know things like the workflow limit are not strictly enforced because I've seen people have more than
workflow limit has been lifted. That's official.
But it still shows you have a limit, though, doesn't it?
Oh, okay. No, but I think I posted tip of the day. I wrote a piece of code that just was plonking in workflows in and ended up with something like 500 workflows, and I just stopped because it was just going and going and going. Yes, and it was lighting up in the red, and I was told that it's UI catching up, but here we are, probably 6 months later, UI is still catching up. Yeah, but workflow is officially limited. Limit for the workflow has been officially lifted, as far as I know.
That's what I'm saying. I've never seen. I don't know if anybody's tried to exceed the whatever 200 or 300 entities, whatever that limit is, but I'm wondering if that's really enforced since the workflow limit is not.
I was going to ask you, one of the things I was reading about Azure Machine Learning, which is going to be part of the Springware as well, and I'm reading this statement as an example how Azure Machine Learning can help to guide your sales. And what they're using is, I'm quoting, for example, a ski or snowboard manufacturer receiving posts with slang expressions such as crazy or sweet can adjust the model to reflect language commonly used by their communities. Is it still a thing? I thought we're kind of done with crazy and sweet in 90s and noughties.
I don't know. I'm not a extreme snowboarder. Maybe they do. I imagine surfers using words like that. I don't know. I'm not a surfer.
Yeah, I don't know. When I was surfing with the older dudes on the long boards, 9 feet long. Make it easy to stand up. Not taxing on your aging muscles and bones, I suppose.
Well,
so they were not using those words.
They were saying, ow, ow. And here's a crazy thought for you. What if everything in CRM was solution-based? Meaning the nice thing about these solutions and the new functionality they're adding being solution-based is you get to choose what you want. So, I'm saying, why isn't case management a solution that you can remove or not install if you don't want that? And I think that might be one way to make it where these areas could be more rapidly upgraded. And also, I've talked to clients who have wanted that. They wanted to strip everything down, even remove the account and contact and have a pure XRM type deployment. And so maybe everything should be solution based.
Interesting that you mentioned. I was involved in development of the product in late 90s, which in hindsight, it was kind of CRM. It was modeling product, which allows you to create entities and attributes and creates views and forms for them automatically. One of the reasons why product didn't go far enough was that we didn't develop any solutions. We didn't have the concept of the solution, but you open the product, you install the product, you connect it to SQL Server, it does its mumbo jumbo, and then it opens and it's a blank canvas, and people look at it and say, well, now what? So it's kind of needs to be carefully balanced. I guess it's a direction it's going to, but the reason why all those entities were introduced in the first place, I guess context accounts and so forth, the reason was that Microsoft has already been playing a catch-up game when they started. And to play a catch-up game, when you open the product, you need to have some shine and polish. You need to have out of the box, and we solve your problems. Obviously, right. Obviously, once people kind of found their footing and say, yeah, okay, you solve my problems, you solve 85% of my problems, but this remaining 15% always getting in the way, and I keep tripping over those 15%. So can you please take them out? And well, by that time, it's a bit too late. Saying, I'm sorry, we can't take field, sibling names from the contact because customer A is using them. You can't just pull out features.
Right.
You know that every now and then we do receive requests saying, guys, could you please, from the product team and say, it's kind of informal surveys and say, who's using contracts? If you do, please reply me with some details, how you use it, what possessed you to start using contracts and so forth. When invoicing is good enough for invoicing, and you know for sure it's not going to trip you over. As I mentioned before, I did use Invoice on one major project, and I wish I didn't, because 80% was done very quickly. That was the great thing, product calculations and, discount lists and pricing lists based on currency and based on time. It was all great. And then the remaining 20%, it was more of an uphill struggle. Okay, we need to shut down this functionality. We need to remove this button. We need to override that functionality. It was more fighting the built-in functionality and bending it to behave exactly how we wanted. And I'm not sure that fighting those 20% was shorter or easier than rewriting 80%. You know
right.
what I mean? So
yeah, I agree with you. You need a certain core out of the box set comparing to other products, and for example, also having just core functionality, because there are small to mid-sized customers that want core CRM functionality. So you are competing on that level. But I'm just saying, what if case management was a solution that was provisioned when you provision CRM, but you could remove it if you wanted to. And now that this other stuff is going to these solutions, that's going to be interesting. The biggest thing I want to know, and I've looked at and I think it just came out this morning on the 2nd, the release, the press release about the Spring Wave, and they actually put a video out showing some stuff. I want to know the details of what's going to be included in the out-of-the-box ADX. That's the biggest thing I want to know, because is it a customer service portal? Is it things like a distributor or partner portal? Those are the two most common scenarios, and I'm just wondering where that's going to fall, because that's going to be huge news if you can get a great customer service portal with case submission, flip a switch and it's on, basically.
I would expect that those portals will be in addition to professional license. Maybe some very basic one won't be, but I can't see the extensive set of ADX Studio features, the full set of features being given to you free of charge. And remember that the portal needs to be run somewhere. ADX Studio
Azure license or something, most likely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you consuming resources, so I'm not sure how that's gonna play out. I like the approach lifecycle services taken. I think it's a valid approach, and we advocate in it very much. Lifecycle services can provision I think it's still in preview. That's the funny part, but it's working very reliably. It started with AX, and Lifecycle Services allow you to provision a CRM deployment. Currently, it's only 3-server deployment. So you've got your Active Directory, you've got a controller, you've got your SQL Server, and you've got your CRM. So it's a 3-machine deployment, but it does it like at one button push. What they do at that point in time, they're saying, okay, we need 3 machines somewhere. Give us your Azure subscription. So you give them your Azure subscription, and they go ahead and provision those 3 machines. You have a choice of how powerful those machines can be, should be. There is a pre-selected, like you can't go, on a micro instance and expect CRM run on it. So there's certain benchmarks they expect. Like D4, I think, is the minimum machine to run CRM on. But they do provision those machines using your resources. So it's up to you to guide the consumption, it's up to you to scale those machines, and so forth. So that way, you give Azure resources, you pay for those resources.
Right, which is great. It's great if you have Azure. Basically, I find now that we're getting into this mixed mode where we've got some, with CRM Online, certain things that are dependent on Azure and Azure licensing, voice of the customer, for example. There should be a clearer way to license what you need on both. If you don't have Azure and you sign up for CRM Online, there's still a little bit of a research and hunting around required to get everything you need.
I agree. It's a bit
decentralized.
A bit of exploring. Yes, that's the word. Decentralized. So you need to have this, you need to have that, and don't forget to bring your water bottle, and it's just pick up too much.
Exactly.
So what you want is, here's your travel kit. Includes everything you might need.
So do we have any word on what in FieldOne is changing or new? Is it still going to be Resco mobile, or did they get that straightened out yet?
I haven't seen anything to say anything different than Resco. It really looks like the thrust of this release is really to tie more, not only field service, but project service kind of things, capabilities together. So it's expanding what you can do with the FieldOne functionality. It's not just field service, is what it looked like from the blog post from the team. But it'll be good to see when more information comes out about that. I haven't seen whether or not there's enhancements to the actual product itself, though. It looks like it's just extending it to allow customers that maybe aren't field service oriented to use that functionality for more for different service type capabilities. Hopefully, it is looking to replace the service scheduling functionality that's out of the box in the service component, because I've never gotten that to work well in a project. So, but the FieldOne service, the FieldOne work order scheduling works very well and is very extendable.
And the good news is that finally, guys, we should be able to build for multi-day projects. Have you tried to create a multi-day appointment in the service calendar?
No.
Yeah. So apparently that's going to be covered with the project. I wonder if project management or project service is part of FieldOne, or is going to be a separate solution.
Everything in all the blog posts about the release, it references FieldOne, bringing that project service and field service together within FieldOne. So, in looking at how they use the work order scheduling, I could see how that can be done. But it'll be good to see once we get a little more detail about the product.
And George, I'm excited about the new automated triage feature in Microsoft Social Engagement, because according to Jujar's post, I can use it to automatically detect your intentions in your social posts. So I'm planning on using it against your Twitter and Facebook posts to find out what your real intention is, George.
Okay, I have to I have to invent a new set of words to replace crazy and sweet.
All right. So what other? I think we've talked about this. Basically, we have this. This gives us the framework of what we should expect thematically. Doesn't really tell us anything specific yet, but it will be coming.
Did you talk about the guided navigation? They showed that on the video that they presented for kind of like the commercial.
Guide navigation is cool, and I see that replacing a lot of training materials or some training materials. You sit user down, and what I understand is it's going to be something that you can have the first time you log into CRM. This user have it guide them through the process, and I've seen some third-party products like something called Walk Me or something would like walk somebody through a product. It's that idea, and I think. I don't think it replaces the need for training, but if you know how it is, people go through a training class and then a week later they start using CRM, they can't remember how to do it. This would be great for either that, or if you have you're adding a new feature where you're not adding, you're not somebody new to CRM, but somebody who's used CRM, and you're adding a new set of features, a new set of entities. It'd be great to have a guided tour taking them through it.
I wonder if it's going to be open for ISVs to add guided navigations to their products, because that's going to be a great addition for ISVs. One of the challenges that ISV face is that you install and you modify the product, so you add your features, and they could be localized to a single place in your CRM deployment, which is like into 1 or 2, 3, navigation bar items. That's fine, but sometimes they span. Like this address lookup that I mentioned is part of FieldOne, but suddenly it's injected itself into a contact form. So it would be nice when you open a contact form, say, hey, look, you installed FieldOne, so hey, by the way, your contact form now has this feature.
Right.
My prediction is probably going to be first release limited, then expanded to other things down the road. I'm hoping that they, for this guide and navigation, they bring back the first things woman from 2013 that gave the first look at 2013. She hasn't had a lot of work to do in the last 2.5 years. And so, she's probably feeling kind of down. So since she was giving the first look at 2013, I think having her come back as the 2016 tour guide would be great.
It's still, I think, first or second most popular post on CRM Tip of the Day, believe it or not.
How to kill her.
She's been hanging around with Clippy and in sorted bars in the tech district. It's not a good.
But it's not all the news, right?
We got update.1.
And some people already reported some problems, but as expected, updates do break something. I believe, because I don't use Outlook client much, but I believe that update 1 or 0.1, should I say, resolved some serious performance issues in Outlook client.
That's what I've heard. Now I haven't heard some of the people who are reporting that report back from their tests yet, but I know that it was supposed to. If you read the knowledge base article, there's a lot of stuff in there about the integrated service hub.
I fell asleep. It's so long. Like the number of bug fixes is just overpowered me. Anyone
out there is using it though? If there are people reporting bugs and they're fixing them, that's got to mean there's somebody someplace is using that thing.
I'm hoping to use it in a couple of projects I'm working on, but I have not pulled that trigger yet because of just some of the limitations that I've seen so far.
Right. To get a lot of existing customers to upgrade, you've got to have the first update, and that's when a lot of people will feel comfortable going. And it looks like to me that's kind of the strategy for when they start upgrading people, because I noticed that it was right around the same time that they released update.1 that they started allowing people to schedule their upgrades to 2016.
Right. And
what I do like about new upgrades is how rapid they are. remember in the past when you had an upgrade, it was like, what would you like, 6 months from now or 18 months from now?
Right.
And I went in for a couple logs for the customers. Sort of, they installed recently, they joined recently, and I said, look, let's get with the upgrade now so we don't go through the pain again. And it was like, would you like tomorrow? I said, sure, tomorrow will be fine.
Yeah.
You know, the closest day was like tomorrow. Said, fine, 6 a.m. tomorrow, go for it.
Right.
So that was surprising that the schedule is pretty much open and availability of resources is fantastic. So I'd say, yeah, great. Kudos to what's the team? It's not the development team. It's engineering team, I suppose, to making that available. Because
So
now I can
how do you-
decide.
how do you
want
think
it
they're-
now?
How do you think they're doing that? I always assumed in the past that it was similar to how on-premises worked, where you basically had to kind of upgrade the org and move it to a server, a set of servers that had the new release on it. But if you can do it like tomorrow, how are they doing that? Are they? Do you think they have a way to run multiple versions from the same server farm, or are they actually moving to between servers when they do the upgrade?
I think they would be moving. Look, it's not as big a deal as it used to be. Just give an example. It's unrelated, but one of my customers decided that they want to move some of their servers to Singapore due to, user locations and things like that. So within 3 hours, I moved 4 servers from region to region, including 1.5 terabytes of data, changed the domain names, and guess what? In the morning, users came in. No one noticed. Like, performance improved. They did notice that, but no one noticed the servers have been moved not physically, but virtual machines have been moved. So, including the huge volume of data. So that's kind of becomes a non-event, moving large volumes of data in the cloud, particularly if your servers are next to each other and you've got, fiber optics connecting it all. So
that really is a big deal. So that's great to hear.
The other news story we had was Resco buying CWR. Anybody have anything to say about that?
About time, I say.
Was anybody still using CWR?
I think, yeah, I've heard, I don't have any clients using it, but I've heard a friend of mine, a couple clients still using it.
We used it back in the day. It was really kind of the first. It
used to be a hot product, yeah.
Yeah, it was really the first real CRM mobile app, really even going back to BlackBerry time frame. And it came out right around the same time or right after Mobile Express did, and of course Mobile Express was so limited that it was much better than that. And then it was a hot product. It was product of the year. It was rumored to be in talks to be acquired by Microsoft, and then that fell apart, and it just it's like it all stopped there because they had people left, but also they gave up. They never innovated it, and it was also Resco came in at quite a bit of a lower price point, had a good free version, also didn't require you to stand up at a server, and that was a big deal because you had to. There was some complexity with CWR where you had to set up a server. Later on, they came out with a hosted version, but I remember back in CRM4 configuring it, and you had to configure databases, you had to set firewall rules and all that stuff, and Resco, despite Microsoft having their own mobile app, has continued to innovate and make improvements and make their product able to do things that the out-of-the-box mobile apps weren't, and taking some innovating things like letting companies private brand the product and things like that. So it's obvious that as far as third-party apps, Resco has kind of won that. I don't know if there's a future for a CWR as a product. There may have some technology around some of the pieces they have that Resco can incorporate, but as far as the app itself, I think Resco is far superior.
But I think sometimes one company buys another just to declutter the market.
Right.
If funds available just to remove confusion, probably Resco was still losing some sales to CWR, and just to remove the confusion from the market to make it you a stronger player. Sometimes people buy not for the technology, but say, hey, look, we're buying and we're shutting you down. Enough is enough.
Right. I know that CWR, if you went to, and I don't know if this is still the case, but I always remember if you went to the App Store and looked for CWR, you always saw all these negative reviews from people who didn't understand that you had to have a CWR server. They thought I can download the app and connect it to my environment, and they type in their URL, it didn't work. So that, I think, was a disadvantage for them as well. But
do you think, could you see this being positioned to where perhaps it's being purchased so that they position themselves in a better light for a possible acquisition by Microsoft down the road? Kind of like they become the de facto opposite, competition to Microsoft's own product, and bringing that in-house combined is more attractive than alone?
Well, I'm going to preface what I'm going to say to that with that every prediction I've made about acquisitions has turned out to be wrong. So I would not believe anything I have to say on this topic. I think that Microsoft is so far down the road of their mobile strategy with the mobile apps, and also things like Power Apps, also things like the SDK work they've done, that acquiring another product like mobile would show a huge lack of confidence in their direction, and would not be, unless they buy it just to incorporate certain pieces from it. So I doubt that.
I don't think so. I really doubt, particularly considering Xamarin purchase.
Speaking of Xamarin, our guest Mitch Milam is here. Yeah, I planned that segue a long time ago. And Mitch has the distinction of being our second-time guest.
Wow.
So, welcome, Mitch.
Yeah. Hey, guys. How are you doing? Can you hear me okay?
Yep, hear you fine. And Mitch, I wanted you to come along because we haven't had enough boring developer content lately, and also because Microsoft since the last episode announced that they had acquired Xamarin, which we talked about last time you were here. And so, since you are one of the people I know that has the most experience with Xamarin, and I wanted to find out from you what your thoughts were on it, where you see that going.
Well, to be quite honest, guys, I kind of have mixed feelings on the whole thing. One, I think it'll be great for Xamarin, the company, because it'll bring, the war chest that is Microsoft to the table, right? So, they've already got excellent integration with Visual Studio. That's what I use when I do my mobile development, is actually Visual Studio with the Xamarin plugin, pushes it over to the Mac to do the actual compilation and distribution, things like that. So that's all ready to go, all good and everything. The only problem I have with it is it's going to muddy the waters for quite some period of time. So you're going to have a pretty major adjustment period, I would imagine. Just merging in with Microsoft, are people going to stay? Are people going to go? My biggest concern is that it's going to slow down the pace of development for certain things as they do it, shifting to do it the Microsoft way instead of the Xamarin way. That's the thing that I do not want to see the most. But I know it's going to be inevitable because every company develops software differently, and Xamarin versus Microsoft is no different. It's got a lot of pluses, and probably the pluses actually outweigh the minuses. But in my mind, it's still not going to be the same company or the same product. And that may be good, may be bad. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
What does it mean for Visual Studio? I guess if being there are differences. Again, I'm not a developer, but knowing a little bit about some of the differences and how they work together as well, does that indicate a change in Microsoft's direction for mobile development, you think?
Well, Xamarin and Microsoft have had a very, very strong relationship from the beginning, ever since they started doing the add-in for Visual Studio. So, it works spectacularly well. Some of the earlier versions had some little quirks you had to kind of get used to how they work, but they actually bought a small company a couple 3 years ago that whose main purpose was to develop add-ins for Visual Studio, and then those guys actually added their expertise to the add-in for Visual Studio, and it's pretty rock solid. I mean, there's still issues every now and then that are kind of hard to figure out, but for the most part, once it's installed, you have some extra menus. I mean, you have to go look to see it's Xamarin. Quite honestly, it's just part of the system. So I don't think that would be going away anytime soon. It would probably still an add-in, just like a bunch of the other components that are part of Visual Studio are. The biggest difference right now, I think, is, and Microsoft I think has a way around it, but Xamarin has their own Android player, which is based off of what's the Oracle product? Box, not Box. One box or whatever it is. So they built a shell around that to make the Android emulator easier to work with, because the one from Google has some issues, which I've been told lately that they've corrected. And Microsoft came out with their own on top of Hyper-V, which is better, because Hyper-V and the Oracle product do not coexist. You can't run both at the same time. So that makes a kind of a pain in the tush for developers, because you have to choose your development. Do you want to do Android development or anything regarding Hyper-V? And you have to pick one and just do that. And then when you get ready, you have to reset. Literally reset the settings and reboot your box, which is not very productive.
Yeah, and I know several people who are more developer types that like using the Oracle virtualization over things like Hyper-V, because maybe they don't need as powerful a machine, or they don't Hyper-V will only run on, especially if you're using it on your laptop, for example. Yeah, absolutely. It is pretty lightweight, but like I said, they wrote a skin around it to where you really never, once you install it, you never, what's VirtualBox, I guess it is. Yep. You never see that again. It's just the Android player, as they call it, and it's just pretty well done. I mean, it's got a few quirks like anything does, but it's just pretty fast. But the moment if you try to run it with Hyper-V, I mean, it's absolutely useless. With just VirtualBox and Hyper-V just fight all the time. And it could take minutes to open the box up instead of seconds. So, yeah.
Tell me, Mitch, with the Hyper-V, from my limited exposure to mobile development, as far as I know, Hyper-V is only required for Windows Phone development.
That is true.
Which is kind of became non-issue, I suppose, lately.
Yeah, and it is very strange. And like I said, it's not using Hyper-V at all. It's just the VirtualBox and Hyper-V are so incompatible. You don't even have to have Hyper-V running. That's the funny thing. It can't even be configured. Yeah, I mean the configuration that you have to make to your machine is to physically remove the Hyper-V capability from your box. That's what the configuration change does.
So you can't even have Hyper-V enabled and.
No, not at all. It has to be disabled.
No, it's basically they both tap in, as far as I know, into Hyper-V hardware capabilities, and only one hypervisor can use those. Both of them are hypervisors. It's either one or another.
That's correct.
Yeah. So and you change it at boot time.
Exactly. So yeah. So the I gotta have a batch file. I think I lost it. But basically, you enable the feature, and you literally it goes into the Windows features, and it enables or disables it. Then you have to reboot. Sometimes you have to reboot a couple times to get it to take, and then you're back in business. But one of the other things about VirtualBox is it does run on a Mac, whereas there are no emulators for Windows for the Mac, to my knowledge.
It works on Linux too, I think, right?
Yeah, I think Linux too. Yeah, so it does give you a broader perspective. And then one thing to note about the purchase there is Xamarin's been in a very neutral place between all the vendors, because they don't like, or well, they kind of like some people versus the other, but they are in a neutral place. Well, now they're Microsoft, and they may lose fans strictly because they don't like Microsoft, and that's it. I mean, just there are people out there again these days who still do that. It's like, I'm gonna ditch this and go to something else because I'm not writing Microsoft stuff, even though they're using C#.
So for people who are just anti-Microsoft or got burned by their copy of Windows XP back 12 years ago or whatever, that just hate Microsoft, you think there may be some that may move away from Xamarin because of that?
They might, but again, I'm not sure what their alternatives are. I mean, they could go to, do a PhoneGap type of thing, but that's not native app technically. But I'm sure there will be some people like that just do not like they don't like Microsoft now, and them using C#, which is what the Xamarin toolset provides, is basically just as far as they want to go. Because I think you are fairly productive with C# versus some of the other languages.
Right.
What does it mean for CRM development?
At this point, I don't know. I mean, see, that's the thing, and I keep seeing this. So the comment that I've seen for a very long time about this is, oh, now we can finally write one code base and run it everywhere, or whatever that comment style may be. We already have that capability. Xamarin, that's why Xamarin's in business.
It's called Java.
Well, no, I won't get into that. And even it's not true. But anyway, but the thing is, for the Microsoft developer, we still have quite a bit of work to do, strictly because the tools that Microsoft is providing us are not at the level of say, Salesforce.com, who drops a package into your lap and says, okay, run this and authenticate and then go create things. Our toolkits are much, much lower level than that. So that needs to be bumped up quite a bit, in my professional opinion.
But I thought the place for plug-and-play development would have been Power Apps.
I haven't had time to play with it, so I don't know. I mean, but that would, for a non-developer, absolutely. But what happens is, with a lot of these things, so like I'm a big proponent of a Xamarin technology called Xamarin Forms, which allows you to create a single code base that can be run on all three types of devices. And it's not perfect, and it's it does to a point get to the lowest common denominator. And what happens is when you pass that level, you have to drop back down to the actual platform level to make changes and additions and things like that. And so there's a line you have to draw between what you want the app to do that you're willing to, okay, this is how it works on all three devices. It works okay, but we need a little bit more than okay. Then you have to start doing other things. So that are more work, and at the end of the day, like, okay, would it be better if we just went native with this and just were writing like for Xamarin for Android or Xamarin for iOS or just the Windows toolkit itself and remove the Xamarin Forms thing out of the way? And the Power Apps are going to be very similar to that, where they're going to produce an 80% app. So it'll do 80% of what you want, but that last 10 to 20% that really makes the app do really what you want to do, what happens with that next is the big question. Like I said, I really like the technology. I love the people. A lot of great folks there. And I haven't been doing much mobile lately. I've been too stuck inside the CRM world. But that's changing. I'm actually working on a course for Xamarin Forms and CRM development. So it's coming here probably in the next 6 months or so.
Right. One other developer news from the last time we were together is the release of the CRM 2016 SDK update, and that was about a week or week and a half ago. Some things in there. The web API is now general availability. Their core support, things like that. So there's some of the things we talked about last time that were preview that are now appear to be more ready for prime time.
Well, to a point, they're ready for prime time. I'm not exactly pleased with how the web API kind of ended up shipping. It's missing a few pieces. Now, that being said, I actually haven't downloaded the latest SDK to see what final things they put in. I was looking at it one weekend, and there was an issue of them distributing the bits to Microsoft.com, and so it was going back and forth where it had an updated date, but no file to go with it. So, and I never got around to doing it. So, but again, it's a bit low level for my taste. Needs to be a little bit higher level to kind of easy adoption for people who don't want to write a toolkit to support a toolkit, which is what we have now. So we basically, what they gave us was all the plumbing to do all the work. So they gave us a pile of parts, but we're missing the pieces that actually the plan to put it together.
Some other things that are worth noting in the SDK update. On mobile, you can now do JavaScript to control the new form controls. You can also, and this is one thing I didn't, until I started reading up about this for this episode, I didn't realize you can now address mobile app records via URL, so you can send somebody a URL, and that's a big one because we used to have with our case process at Hitachi, we had an email that went out when a case was created that had here's the link to the case, and then we had a mobile link that pulled up, and it was Mobile Express. So that's a nice thing. That was a big thing I thought was missing. Where if you were on mobile, you can do that, and you still had to maintain the Mobile Express form.
I like Mobile Express. You can still use it on Nokia flip phones.
Oh dear goodness!
Did you see that issue that Yuka found, Yuka?
No, what was it?
So anyway, so what they're talking about is so the way that the mobile devices work is they have prefixes for an app. So a URL will open up if it says URL, if it's HTTP colon or HTTPS colon, it's going to open up the default browser for the device. So what they came up with is the ability to actually define other types of services that would actually launch an app. So the one that the Dynamic CRM team is Dynamic CRM colon. So what happens is when you click that link, we'll actually launch the app. Well, he found it out the other day, and it was confirmed by Microsoft that the Outlook client, at least for Android and iOS, strip out that kind of thing.
Well, that's convenient, isn't it?
If you use Microsoft's email app on your iPhone, you can't use this feature.
That is what it says, and I hope that wasn't an NDA, because if it is, I'm just in VP, and I guess we all are. Oh, whoops. Okay, sorry.
Okay.
Thanks, Mitch.
Well, actually, Mitch, that means it's just one way for me to sneak right in there.
There you go.
When all of you get kicked out.
Yeah, so he's like, this is, I sent an email to myself, and it doesn't seem to work, and Rich goes, yeah, they changed something, and now we got to talk to them about fixing it.
Web resources and iframes now work in CRM for tablets for iOS, Android, and Windows 10. I forget, it wasn't working in one of those three. Was it Windows it wasn't working in?
I think it was the Windows 10 version that wasn't working.
Have any of you had experience or found a use for the iframes in the mobile app? I haven't really seen one in the wild yet.
We're actually working on one for one of my projects that will call a page, a customer's web page to perform a parts lookup so that they could fill out the mobile form to submit an order request.
Aren't there some limitations about passing authentication through it, though? Like if you have something you need to authenticate to. George, I thought you
well, yeah, this in my situation, there's no authentication needed. It's a public web page.
So if you're going to have a public web page, it pulls up. But I believe if you have something it needs to authenticate to, I believe there's still some limitations there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Bots of the world, all welcome. Yeah, there's an issue with public pages that talk to CRM, and we're discovering it more and more that scalability is always a challenge. How do you scale it? CRM, by definition, is not a scalable resource. It's a finite resource, particularly considering that CRM Online is a shared environment. So how do you scale it? So when you do have something like public web pages, you do need to think about architecture in your application differently, and don't let your website talk directly to CRM, but let's say talk to Azure queues or something like that. So you use and then kind of DQ requests at stable and known page and write records to CRM. So architecture and solution is not as easy as it sounds.
So, Mitch, we did talk about you the other week. Specifically, we were talking about people upgrading, and the question was, how do you find out like all the plugins and stuff? And I remembered that you had a tool on your website that you could use to find out all the plugins that were in CRM4. And I actually used it the other day.
Oh yeah, the one that the export plugins.
Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, I think I actually wrote that after a conversation you and I had, God, who knows how long ago, where you had a situation where you had something somewhere stuck in the database, you couldn't get it out,
I believe that was on the bus at the 2008 MVP Summit.
It may have been. It was a long time ago. Yeah, most of those tools are pretty old. Still people still use them. Yeah. So there's a lot of edge cases and stuff, and then my snapshot application, my documentation tool will work if it's 2011 above. It won't work on 4.0, of course, unfortunately.
So what other got any other cool tools you've been you got in the works, Mitch?
No, I'm just updating the three I have. So I've got the JavaScript conversion tool, and then I've got the snapshot documentation tool, and then my Explorer, which is my kind of a data analysis to make sure that you've got your system laid out properly. It's not the data. It's not analysis of data like a Power BI is, but it's analysis of the data to find out if you have your forms laid out correctly, or you have fields you're not using, or anything you're not using, things like that. That's I'm working on updates for those. There's still a lot of people who are moving off of 4. And what's interesting, I created this tool set back a couple years ago, whenever Conversions was in Houston last. Right after that, I had two projects back to back, and I created this set of macros for Visual Studio that allows you to convert all your .NET to upgrade it to the 2011 SDK level. That's all. It's all free. It's out there on Codeplex, and I can give you a link for your show notes. Except for the fact that you have to use Visual Studio 2010 to upgrade it, because they dropped support for macros in 2012. Okay. So that's kind of an irritating thing there. They did put macro support back, but it's not VB script. It's actually JScript. So, but that can save you, I can't tell you how much time upgrading your stuff. And then strictly because the object model for .NET is 100% changed, just like it was for JavaScript.
Don't you still have to have Visual Studio 2010 to develop CRM reports or something like that? It's like annoying. It's always like 7 versions.
You got to have, but it's not the same one. You got to have if you just install 2010, the reporting tools, it's not going to work. You got to have the one that comes with SQL Server, or get the SQL Express.
Yeah, it's called Business Intelligence Studio.
Yeah, some kind of modified Visual Studio
version. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, it's just a set of just configuration changes. It's still Visual Studio except 2010. Which is kind of the irritating thing about it. But anyway, these are fairly handy. Like I said, I developed them over about a 4-month period where I had two gigs back to back, and actually they ended up on top of each other. It was just really a lot of fun. But anyway, it'll save people a lot of time. But like I said, the biggest problem is you gotta use 2010 to run the macros. But after you do that, you're done. It's a one-time operation.
Well, Mitch, I appreciate you joining us, and thanks for being our second-time guest here.
All righty. Thanks, guys. We'll talk to you later.
Yeah, I just was going through the list of things and that I use day in, day out in my CRM development, and I just realized that we never mentioned the Ribbon Workbench.
We should talk about that.
So Ribbon Workbench, basically, it's a de facto tool that everyone customizing CRM installs on their development, at least on development box. Some people do it straight on production boxes, but it's the reason I believe that Microsoft turned around and said, we're not going to invest into any, command bar tools, visual tools, because you've got Ribbon Workbench. It's working fine.
Right. I have a question for you. I have this theory that the same person or people that were in charge of charts were in charge of the ribbon. Because here's my thinking. They're very smart people that build in very powerful features but add no interface to really use them. It's the kind of thing. This fantastic framework, but let's make it very unapproachable for normal people other than basic changes. And then somebody comes along like Scott Giroux and develop one and creates one that almost anyone can use within reason. Now, I always tell customers there's different levels here. If you want to hide a button, anybody can do that. If you want to move a button, most people can do that. If you want to add a button, you still have to be very smart or look at one of Scott's blog posts to tell you how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. What I found is that it's a great tool if you understand how ribbons work.
Right.
So if you're careful how you name your commands, how you tie things together, how you keep it compact and efficient. Particularly, we had a few problems with the third-party solutions installing their buttons on standard entities like contacts and opportunities, and we couldn't get rid of those buttons. So it took a while. It took me stepping back, pulling down, diff XML and modifying it by hand. So there is a limit of what Ribbon Workbench can do if you're looking for absolutely top-notch, state-of-the-art functionality with, flying sources and Lego pieces appearing left and right, so you can build together really powerful command bars. But for day-to-day modifications like hide this, show that, add the new button which pops up a message when I click it. It's easy, it's fantastic, it's everyone's tool. So the only thing I have to complain is that it's still Silverlight. Maybe we should get Scott on the show.
There's a new version, and I know this. If it's not out, it's about to be. But I know that he has one at least in preview.
I know he's been working, and that's what I'm getting at.
HTML5 based.
Let's get Scott on the show and get him to talk about what he's been up to.
There has to be at least one thing that's Silverlight based still to make the Silverlight team still believe in that their work wasn't for nothing, and because someone somewhere has to keep buying David Yak's Silverlight book. David,
I do have that.
Has done great work, and his work should be supported. So I'm hoping that there continues to be one or two things out there using Silverlight just so David can continue to sell his book.
Agreed.
This has been CRM Audio, the Microsoft Dynamics CRM podcast. You can hear previous episodes on our website, crm.audio. Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, follow us on Twitter at CRM Audio, or leave us a comment on our Facebook page, facebook.com/CRM podcast. If you have any topic suggestions or questions that you would like for us to answer on a future episode, please drop us an email at voice@crm.audio. Special thanks to Dale Simmons for our theme music. Go check out his website, dalesimmons.com. Please join us next time on CRM Audio.